While fear of the Delta variant is increasing, our ability to freely talk about it is decreasing. And that is due to the growing power of censorship by big tech and the far left media. If you don't bend the knee and agree with mask mandates and vaccine passports, they'll silence you. Kash Patel, a former senior advisor to President Trump, has launched a legal offense trust to help fight back against speech suppression and defamation by left-wing activists, mainstream media reporters, and tech giants. He joins us now to talk about it. Kash, good to see you.
Buck, thanks so much for having me to talk about this.
So what is this, man? What's the mission?
The mission is to fight back. Basically, after years of being, and as you know, being a national security career guy, you never expected your name and your family name to be tarnished falsely in the media, to be defamed, to be called a genocidal dictator, and to be thrown in the middle of an impeachment fiasco that was totally made up. And so at a certain point, you just got to figure out, are you going to sit back on defense or are you going to go on offense? And as I've been traveling around the country and meeting tons of Americans during the Freedom Tour that I do with Chairman Nunes, they've asked, they want to join the fight, and that if I could lead that fight. So I started this legal offensive trust, not just for me, but mostly for others, so that I can help out others who are similarly defamed or harmed by big tech or big media and mainstream media with lies, so we can correct the record and get the wins in court that they need.
So give us a sense of what are the kind of cases that you either have taken on or plan to take on with this defense fund?
Sure, I'll give you a sense of my cases because I launched them first before we opened the trust, but it's a similar flavor. Basically, if you're falsely accused of anything in the media, it's defamation, especially if you're not a public figure. And if they aren't called out for it, then they're going to continue to do it. And as you've seen, the erosion of the mainstream media since President Trump ran for office has just reached apoplectic heights. And the only way to straighten it out and restore some integrity to that is to call them out. So if a person in Mississippi was accused by a local newspaper or a tech giant or even a mainstream media outlet of falsely committing criminal activity or falsely carrying themselves out in their daily lives, then that's the kind of individual we're going to represent. We've got the legal teams on standby, but what we need, obviously, unfortunately, the reality of it is all of this costs money. So I said, let me try and go out there and raise as much money as I possibly can. And then we're going to use the community to find out who needs help. And every time I travel, I meet people more and more that say they need help. They want to join the fight. They just don't know how. So, I'm going to be the juggernaut.
So what is the goal here is to get a change in big tech behavior from the social media platforms? I mean, if you're successful with this, Kash, and I know you're a serious guy and a dedicated fellow, so if you're successful with this over the next, let's say, 18 to 24 months, what happens? What does that look like?
We probably file one lawsuit a month on behalf of an individual or an individual's company across the United States that has been wronged or harmed by big tech or social media or mainstream media, be it defamation or privacy rights violation or contract and tortious rights violations. And we start stacking up wins in state and federal court. And then we show them the pecuniary, the monetary benefit, or excuse me, the monetary punishment, and hold those accountable in the mainstream media and big tech for getting away with their kind of careless and reckless conduct for so long. And we also have, great folks like yourself help tell the stories of these everyday Americans that were so harmed. And that's what we want to start rolling out on a month-by-month basis. And we're just getting started. And, right now we're just looking to build as much money in the coffer as we can. And I know I hate talking about money, but I've got guys willing to do the deed on deep discount, but still need some to get going.
So when you talk about suing, let's say, big tech, I mean, they usually just hide in we're a private company, we have our terms of service, we can do whatever we want. What are the legal avenues, and what are some of the statutory interpretations you're going to use to go after them? And you mentioned defamation. I mean, is this to fight against when people have things said about them that are untrue on big tech, or is this to gain back access to platforms? I mean, that's a point here that I want to make sure we get clarity on.
Sure. And it's probably best to say it's a combination of both of them, because what you have is obviously there's Section 240, which blocks a lot of suits from going against Twitter and social media and what like. But there's the DMCA provision, which is a copyright infringement provision that does apply to big tech, that does apply to Twitter. When they use your likeness or your image or your brand without your permission and allow that to occur in Twitter and Facebook and elsewhere, they do not anymore have the provisions of Section 240. So you sort of pierce the veil, for lack of a better word, and then you're able to go after them for defamation as well. So it's a two-part process. And again, it costs, time and money, but I've got all the time in the world, and I'm happy to be the face of it if it helps bring others remuneration for the damage that has been caused to them. And at the end of the day, I know it might be wishful thinking, but maybe, just maybe, we can get people back on the platforms that should be on those platforms and not censored for political narratives.